What's up, guys? I'm Tara with Tara Simon Studios, and this is part 2 of my little story time about my auditions in New York. Only this one is about how I landed my first big Broadway role. So if you haven't watched part 1, make sure you click on that right here, right now for some context. So after Bob Klein was kind enough to introduce me to that equity agency, and the equity agency was kind enough to say they would put me up for some roles, about a week later, I saw in Backstage, which is that auditions newspaper in New York City, this audition for Fame. And it was the European tour of Fame, which meant everybody and their mother, brother, sister was gonna be at that audition. Because European tours in Broadway world is like the holy grail. You're getting paid to see the world. You get out of Dodge for a little while. I mean, it's just like the thing, right? And I knew the line was gonna be wrapped the heck around Ripley Greer Studios. Now, it's important to note also that there were about 4 other auditions that day that I also really, really wanted to attend. But because this was an open call and not an equity call, there was no appointment. And I couldn't even call that equity agency to try to get me in. So I show up to the open call for Fame like an hour and a half early to try to be at the front of the line so that I could get to the other auditions that day, because it's a numbers game, really, just like anything in life. The more you audition, the better your chances are of getting a role, right? I get there. And by the way, it's pouring outside and my umbrella broke. So I get there, half wet, and the line is legitimately wrapped around the New York City block. That means that the line inside Ripley Greer was all the way down the stairwell, out the door, and wrapped around. There were hundreds of people. Like picture like a smaller scale American Idol season 1 line, you know, like it was just crazy. Here's a pro tip for anybody auditioning in New York City. You will need the following things in your bag. Obviously, your rep book and headshot and resume. Make extra copies, please. Headphones, essential, because you're standing in line with a bunch of really interesting and sometimes crazy people. Food, water, snacks, easily accessible things to keep yourself hydrated and nourished. It's gonna be a long day. Last but definitely not least, try your best to make friends with people in front of and behind you, because at some point, you're gonna need to go to the bathroom, and if you don't make friends with them, guess what? You weren't in that spot. I didn't see you there. Yeah. So time is ticking on, and I finally find myself up into at least a waiting holding room where I could sit in a chair. There was a 10 o'clock audition, a 12 o'clock audition, a 2 o'clock audition, and a 4 o'clock audition. I've pretty much figured by this point I'm missing the 10 o'clock. So I'm sort of going over my mind what I want to audition for the 12, 2, and the 4 in my rep book as I'm waiting for this audition. 10 o'clock comes and goes. Yep, sure enough, missed that one. 12 o'clock comes and goes. Yeah, missed that one. A little annoyed now. 2 o'clock comes and goes, and so does 4 o'clock. And at this point, I'm a little upset because this open call is lasting forever. And not only did I miss all of the other auditions that day, I've been waiting at this point for hours. And I really didn't feel like I moved ahead all that much. And to add insult to injury, as the day continued to drag on, the production assistant would come into each room and say that they're cutting the amount of measures they were allowing each singer to sing to try to speed up the audition process. So the beginning of the day started off at a nice generous 32 bars or 32 measures of music, which you could say, depending on the song, equals to be about 30 to 45, maybe a minute's worth of music. By 5 o'clock, they cut it to 12 bars. And by 6 o'clock, they cut it to 8 bars, which is basically, depending on the song, the equivalent of about 8 to 15 seconds tops. I'm sitting in my chair, and I know I don't have a right to be because I'm just little old me in New York City, but I'm seething mad. I'm like, I've missed all these auditions today, and they have the nerve to cut the measures all the way down to 8. Like, what am I sitting here for? I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna sing the word "the." Thank you. Hope I get the role. Like, hope you can tell how I sing by singing the word "the." You know, it's like, there's no time to show them anything with 8 bars. So I made a decision. By this time, it's like 6:30. I am about 5 more people ready to go. So I know at least I'm gonna be out of there by 7. So it's about 7 o'clock now, and I'm about ready to go in to finally audition. And I was so indignant with how long the whole process had been. I'd never waited that long for an audition in my life thus far. And I said to myself, Tara, you have waited 13 hours to sing in front of these people. And at this point, it's not even about getting the role. At this point, it's about singing for yourself and finishing what you started. So you're gonna go in there, you're gonna sing as long as you want, you're gonna sing how you want, and you're gonna go home and treat yourself to a really nice dinner. So that's exactly what I did. I went in. I walked in like I owned the place because I didn't care at that point. Like, I literally was just finishing what I started. I wasn't nervous. I was too mad to be nervous. I respectfully slated my piece. I nodded to the pianist to begin, and I sang. And I sang. And the pianist stopped, and I still sang to finish my phrase. A lot of times when they raise their arm and cut you off, the pianist will stop, and it's like customary for you to stop. Even in mid-phrase, I didn't. I was like, I'm finishing this. I'm finishing this right now. I was a little out of breath, and I just looked at him, and I said, thank you, and I started to walk away. And who I later found out was the choreographer of the show, Lars Bethke. Lars, hi, if you're watching this. He stopped me and he said, wait, we'd like to give you something to learn to come back and sing tomorrow. Now, I don't recommend doing what I did next, okay? Just in principle, don't do it. But this is the truth, so I'm gonna say it. I was so tired and so grumpy from waiting all that time and missing all those auditions. I turned around and I looked at him and I said, thank you so much for the opportunity to learn something new. I would be honored to take that music and learn it, but I do not want to come back tomorrow. May I take that music, learn it, and come back in 10 minutes? And there were 4 people at the table. The producer, the choreographer, Lars, his wife, Denise, and some other person who I can't remember. I think it was like a casting director. And Denise and Lars looked at each other, and Wolfgang, the producer, looked at Lars and Denise. The whole song. I said, yes, sir, I will. I doubled down at that point because in my mind, I'm thinking, shut up, Tara, you don't know if you can learn a song in 10 minutes. There was just this stubbornness within me at that point. I think it was just from sheer exhaustion and just impatience. But I was like, yes, I will. So they kind of just like, okay, sure, let's see you try kind of thing. And I went and I grabbed the sheet music. I thanked them. I said, I will be back. I went out of that room. I turned the timer on my phone for 10 minutes. And I frantically went around the waiting area, asking anybody if they had the soundtrack to Fame. Because by the way, I didn't know this show. So the song that they gave me, it was called Let's Play a Love Scene. And it was one of Serena Katz's big numbers in the show. And I was up for Serena Katz. Apparently, I'm learning this right now. So there's this girl with headphones on that I see in the corner of the room. And I go up to her and I was waiting with her like almost the whole day, right? And I said, hey, you're not listening to the Fame soundtrack right now, are you? And she was like, yeah, I am. I said, listen, can I borrow your headphones for literally like 10 minutes and I'll bring them right back. I just need to listen to this one song. She didn't know that I had come from the audition and I got a call back. So I took her headphones and I found a room in Gripply Greer that had a piano. And I went and I took the sheet music, I listened to the song, and I audiated the notes as well as watching and reading the treble clef part of the sheet music for my melodic line. I don't know how, I honestly don't, but I learned that song in 10 minutes. And when that timer went off, took the sheet music, I gave the girl back her headphones, I thanked her, I walked back to the door where they were still holding auditions, and I told the PA, hey, they wanted to see me in 10 minutes and I'm ready to see them. The door opens and I walk in and I have the sheet music in my hand. This was the most ballsy move I have ever made, by the way. Like, I still look back and I'm like, I don't know what came over you, Tara. I took the sheet music, and it was expected for me to look at the sheet music while I sang. But instead, I got to be even more extra, and I dropped the sheet music on the floor as if to say, like, I don't even need that. The piano started, and I sang that song. Now, thank God, I think they stopped me after like the first chorus or something, so it ended up probably being like the first verse, first chorus. But I sang that song. And they looked at each other, and Denise, the wife of Lars Bethke, got up out of her chair. She came over, and she said to me, okay, I know you didn't want to come back, but this is now a second callback for you. You need to come back in 2 days' time for the choreography audition. Can you do that? And I was like, I would love to do that. She also gave me some helpful tips on what to wear to look more like the character, to kind of paint a better subliminal visual picture for those who were watching me as I auditioned for the choreography audition coming up. So I walked out of the room on cloud 9. I couldn't believe I pulled that off. I couldn't believe that happened and that I actually did that, honestly. 2 days later, I came back for the choreography audition. And who is in the final round of 5 girls but the girl who let me borrow her headphones? I couldn't believe it. She looked at me, I looked at her, we smiled at each other, and we went through the choreography auditions. And they kept whittling it down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 people left. I was one of them, and guess who was one of them? The girl with the headphones. And we slogged it out, man. We were working so hard learning that choreography. She did a great job. I mean, it was healthy competition, you know. And at the end of the very long choreography audition, I was awarded the role of Serena Katz in the Broadway European Tour of Fame. She looked at me, gave me a hug, and I hugged her back. And then as she pulled away, she said to me, "I never should have let you borrow those headphones." And I kind of shrugged and I was like, "But it was so kind of you, thank you." She was like, yeah. And I never saw or heard from her again. I wish I knew her name. And if you're watching, please make yourself known. But there were a couple life lessons in this experience that I really want you to lean into and focus on. The first one was that I got that part for 2 reasons. One, I had 0 inhibitions and I had nothing left to prove by the time they finally let me in that audition room. I sang for myself. And I was completely myself. There was 0, God, I hope I get it, within the spirit of that audition. The second reason is I proved to them that I would make their life super easy if they hired me, because I was able to learn music really fast and I caught on and I took direction really quickly. And at the end of the day, performers, guys, you singers and performers who are watching this out there, it's not about you. Those casting directors, those choreographers, those producers at that table, they've got families, they've got lives, they are busy. And what they're trying to do is make it themselves and make money themselves. And they want to know, is this person that I'm going to cast going to make my life easy? Are they going to make me look good? And the sooner you realize that that's really what auditioning is about, the more roles you're going to book. The other really important life lesson I learned is to use whatever resources you can find and be assertive with what you need. If I hadn't asked that girl to listen to her music with those headphones, it would have taken me way longer than 10 minutes to learn that music, because I was using almost all of my senses, sight, sound, and touch, by playing the melodic line, listening to the song, and seeing the sheet music at the same time. It's what accelerated that learning process in that short amount of time for me. So don't be afraid to ask for help and ask for what you need. And if you love Broadway just as much as I do and you love this story, I think that you're really going to appreciate this next video. So make sure that you click on this and check it out.